Well, it's particularly interesting that Russia gets painted as an imperial power when it is, of course, the United States and NATO and the West more generally that is the true imperial force on the planet. For Russia to be called an imperial power in reintegrating Crimea is, of course, a gross distortion of history, considering that Crimea is historically part of Russia and that the people of Crimea very clearly expressed their desire to return to Russia rather than to chain themselves with the albatross of Ukraine, which is, I might add, an illegal and illegitimate government that is running the country from Kiev and making the country more into a puppet of NATO and the Western powers. So it is sort of it is a hypocritical position that the West is taking in calling Russia imperialistic. But more importantly, I think it shows their own insecurity. They understand very clearly that they have been outplayed and outmaneuvered by Putin and the Russian government, that they pushed too far with their fascist takeover in Kiev, and that this was the response. And of course, they also understand that they have to paint Russia as imperialistic, lest they be engaged in losing the rest of the east and south of Ukraine, which is a very real possibility were the people of those regions given a democratic choice to voice their opinions. Well, definitely, and I think that the recent developments in Ukraine, the crisis in Ukraine, is really just part of a long-standing policy of NATO's eastward expansion, going back to the end of the Soviet Union and the so-called agreement that was reached between the United States and the Soviet Union under Gorbachev, was that NATO would not expand eastward, that it would not consume and integrate the former Soviet republics into its sphere of influence. Of course, as soon as the Soviet Union had dissolved, that is precisely what happened with the integration of the Eastern European countries, the integration of the Baltic states, of Georgia more recently, and other countries as well. All of this represents NATO's eastward expansion. The so-called missile shield that the United States has been promoting for the last 5, 6 years or so is certainly a part of that same process as well. And President Putin in Russia very clearly has recognized this now for many years, and this is part of the reason why there has been such a tension over that missile shield. And so the developments in Ukraine can be seen in the context of NATO's expansion, and certainly there is some credence to the notion that Ukraine and the east of Ukraine especially would be the placing of U.S. and NATO's missiles right on the doorstep of Russia. Naturally, this is unacceptable to the Russian government, considering the fact that their primary interest, their primary goal, and their primary responsibility is the protection of Russia and Russian people, certainly under threat from NATO.